Hello and welcome to the tutorial on mixing colors. We are going to try to mix a few things. I'm going to show you how I do it. I'm using the Bristol Smooth paper. It's a 300 series, and let's just get to it. So first I want to say, if you're planning on doing these for a living, if you are going through and trying to set yourself up as a business, which is a great idea, I want to suggest to you to get, this is a free app. So what you want to do is you're going to want to get the color pencil picker app. It is free and it's really easy to use. It has a list of different kinds of pencils that you could use. Now it's not always like foolproof, it's not always correct, but it does help in the beginning to learn how to blend colors, to learn what to mix, and then as soon as you start recognizing the colors that you're using, it's really helpful. I also like to use it because it like blows up the picture and it'll keep my phone on so that I can just keep watching it and I don't lose my spot. So it'll come up, it'll say load image. After you pick your pencils that you're going to use, you load the image. Let me choose an image. So say I'm going to do this black fur, okay? Like it'll go around, like let's see right here. It has metallic gold and dark brown. To mix it, the preview right here. So it's very helpful. I mean, a lot of times I'll go through this and be like, you know, maybe you have a black dog or something, and it just says the whole thing's black, and sometimes you can't even get any variation of color on there to mix. That's when you have to start using what you know. So it's not always the best app, but for starting out it really helps. There's a couple other apps that I think you should get. It's good for practice. I have these two other apps, Pexels and Pixabay, and if you go on there you can search royalty-free images that you can use, like say a bird. Say you want to draw a bird. It'll come up with a bunch of bird pictures that you can save to your phone and you can create them. And you usually, if you're going to post it on your page, or you know, you need to give Pixabay, which is who we're using, you need to use Pixabay as your photo reference. You'll say photo reference from Pixabay. So just so that people know where to get that, because if there's people following you, they want to know where you got your photo. Also on Facebook, there's also a lot of groups where there are photographers who, they love it when artists recreate their pictures. I actually have one waiting on my phone to do. Like I want to do it. It's an eagle. So yeah, look up those free pictures for artists on Facebook. There's a lot of them. So let's talk about, let's see. Let me grab a couple of neutral colors, and let's say, okay, I'm going to go with my white. I'm going to take sienna. This is light umber, and then I'm going to use my favorite goldenrod, and we're going to come up with something with fur. Now this is pretty general. Of course, I'm probably going to add some black, or even some darker brown, like a dark umber too. But let's just start with these and get a little bit of a base down. Okay, so grab your pencils. And I'm going to start with a base with my light umber. And let's work on maybe some short hair. So maybe you are looking at a picture that is kind of far away, so you don't really have like the detail of the fur. So with this technique, you're going to want to do small circles. So let me make a quick, I'm just going to make a quick square to kind of keep myself confined. I'm just using a regular pencil for that. So now let me, okay, so I'm going to use my light umber here. And we're going to just slowly start. We're going to pick a direction that we're going to go. So I'm going to go with my fur that way. Okay, so I want to start with some very light circular motions. We're not adding a lot of pressure. We're just slowly adding this up. Now this can take quite a while. Colored pencils are very slow, so try not to rush yourself. And then also, if you begin to get like a little bit of an ugly phase, don't worry. Like, just keep layering. So just slowly build this up. I'm just doing circles. See, do you see how you can't really tell which direction I'm going? If you do like hard strokes and you just go like this, you're gonna get lines. We don't want that. This is a no-no. Okay? So if we're going for realistic, this is what we want to do. Small circles. And you overlap too, just slightly. You overlap the fur. Now this is if it's far away. Now if it is a little bit closer, you're going to be doing like the short strokes. And a good reference for that is the snow leopard tutorial. If you want to see, like, those are like very short strokes that are individually like hair. So if this is far away though, we're just going to very lightly add this. And a lot of times this is how you're going to add it, your color, like for wood or for blankets, or depending on how far away you are or how much detail that you can see in the photograph is really what type of strokes you will be doing. Or so let's just keep doing the circles. Let's fill in the square. So another thing that you want to think about when you're layering is that if you're going to use a solvent or if you're just going to keep layering until you get the desired look, either is fine, but you need to have enough pigment. Right now this is not enough pigment at all for me to want to do anything with solvent, or even for me to consider it able to be blended, which you can use different kind of blenders. They have the paper stump blenders. I'm looking for my, there it is. And I'll show you what this does too. Oops, sorry. Okay, so this is a colorless blender. This is a Prismacolor colorless blender. And I've used it, it depends on what I'm using it for, but you have to be careful because you can ruin the tooth of the paper. So, oh my washing machine is shaking my house. So now I'm going to come in with my sienna, and depending on, say we're looking at like the crease of a dog's leg, or so I'm just going to come in with a little more pressure, but not a lot. Really just slowly building this up. And I'm still doing the circles because I don't want it to I don't want to have the lines. We don't want that. So we're just going to slowly add, and say, just come down this way. So that is super helpful to see how that's going. And you can still see some of the light umber underneath, which is a good thing. Okay, and then come back over top. I'm going to go back over top with our light umber again. And do you see how we're just adding small thin layers just to get a desired look. Okay. And I switched directions. It's always okay to do that. As long as you're keeping your strokes light, you can switch directions, which will also help get rid of that white look behind. I'm just going to come back through, and I'm doing larger circles just to break up that strokey kind of look. Okay, and then I'm going to come back through again with my sienna. Same technique. This is really good too if you draw little squares and you just practice your blending. And I still don't think I have enough pigment down to use a excuse me, to use a solvent or anything like that. I'm just building up some of this, and now I'm going to go through and I'm just going to add this sienna to the whole area, and I'm still doing circles. They're a little larger, but I'm not pushing down. I have not a whole lot of pressure. I'm just distributing the weight of my pencil evenly throughout the picture. Okay, so let me add another little bit of this. I'll show you what the colorless blender does. The only reason why you have to be careful, you don't want to ruin the tooth of the paper so that it doesn't, you don't want to ruin your piece. So basically what this does, it doesn't have any color in it, obviously, but you basically use it like a pencil, and it's forcing the colors to kind of mush and blend together. So I don't always use this. I'll use it on the Bristol Smooth. I don't use it on my pastel mat. The pastel mat has a finer tooth that is almost like sandpaper, but this will also help if you have a lot of white showing through. It will help like blend it together, but again, you don't want to push hard, you don't want to ruin the tooth. And see, it's really smoothing it out, but of course I honestly keep going on this. Like, I really do not think it's finished at all. So let's jump to get our, well, let's add a little bit of goldenrod. We're going to come in on the side here. This is reminding me of like maybe a boxer's coat, like a dog, like a boxer dog, or and you just keep going over these spots. And just slowly build up your color, and we're doing circles. Again, keep your weight of your pencil even throughout the picture. You don't want to really gouge it. You just want to have that tooth grab some of this. Now with the colorless blender, it might it might actually push some of that tooth down even if you're light on it, and it might not grab as much of the pigment of the pencil as you want it to. This is one of the reasons why I kind of shy away from it. Now it's obviously, it is a tool that is useful. I have used it many times, but only for certain things, if I feel like it needs it or if I can't get something to blend right. Like on this paper, I usually have a hard time blending certain colors. It's usually peach and sienna, the burnt sienna. Like it can be really difficult to get those two colors to blend for some reason. I don't know. It like chunks up real goofy, and it just can be very frustrating. Okay, so a little bit more pressure. I want a little bit more pigment. I'm just blending this all together. My kids are playing in their room, so you might hear them, so I apologize if they start fighting. Oh, the life of motherhood. Okay, let's go back through with our light umber, and we're going to go over the whole picture again. Like, this is what can be very tedious. It's not like painting where you can have, you know, your pigment a solid color and just throw it down. It really is, you know, a long process to get it to look the way you want it to look. Now, another thing too you might want to grab And I've had this before in my videos, but this is a paintbrush, but it's really soft, okay? So when you have the Bristol Smooth, I find the paintbrush is very helpful with just brushing away. You don't want to push down on it, but you just want to use the tips and just push away all that stuff. Now, on the pastel mat, if you're using something like pan pastel, it seems to like push off more of the dust. You want to keep the dust on there. So, all right, let's see. I want to get out some, let me find it here. Okay, the dark umber. Okay, now I'm going to use this for some of my shadows or my values here, and it's going over very nicely. We're still pretty far away from finishing this, but do you see how these are starting to really blend together rather than just, you know, lines and stuff? We want to make sure that we have a nice blend. And of course, if you have a darker crease, you can use your black, or you can put more pressure on the dark umber. I'm thinking that looks super nice. I'd say in this area here, if you wanted to use your solvent, you probably could at this point, and then once the solvent dries, you can color over top of it as well. Another thing you could do is, if you're into watercolor, you can also watercolor down, you know, a base color, and then wait till it dries, and then depending on your paper, if it's like a watercolor paper, you could draw over top of it after it dries. I've done that many times, and it does have a really wonderful look. Really, really cool. I'm just using my small circles, just going through pretty much the whole piece. But this is a really good exercise, even just for blending. I mean, just to layer and get the weight of your hand right, to get to see what colors do as well. So also, I'm going to be putting up a bit of a color theory video as well, so you can also look at that. It's really starting to look nicer. And then if you have like a shiny spot on fur, you can come in with your white, or even like a yellow. I have a yellow ochre over here that you can even make it brighter. And this seems to like push it around too. So you might not even need the colorless blender. If you have a lighter color, it will blend it too. It's really starting to look nice, I think. I'm going to come back in with my burnt sienna. I'm going to add a little bit more pressure and get some more of that pigment on there. I want to darken it up a little bit more because it's starting to sort of blend away with the rest of it, so we want to keep that. There we go. Maybe I'll extend that down a little bit. And let's go over top of this dark umber too. Okay, so I added more of this sienna over here, and we're just gonna keep working that with the goldenrod. And if you don't have some of these colors in your pencil set, one thing is, if you have a Hobby Lobby or a Michaels or any kind of art store, usually they'll carry the Prismacolors. That is pretty, they are pretty easy to come by. The ones that I have trouble are the polychromos. I can't really find like loose sets of those to buy them. I'm still looking. I went to blick.com and I'm not finding them on there either. Some more light umber. See how it's all just starting to blend together? I think it looks super, super nice from where I'm standing anyway. I know the camera can sometimes take away some of this nice and add more white to it. I don't know why the cameras do that, but almost every camera that I have had, they tend to highlight the white parts and then make it look grainy, but it's really not looking grainy to me at this point. And see, if you overlap here, it doesn't look like such a hard line. So these are some really good just exercises you can do. You can also just play around with, say, just practice instead of doing it this way. You can also do it this way. So say we get, where did our, okay, let me sharpen. So I have an electric sharpener. This is my Tihu, and it's very, very handy. I really, really like it. So maybe you don't want to do your techniques or shading practice like this or layering practice like that. You can always go and do it like this, but you can go back and forth and try to layer it from dark. You can add a lot of pressure, and then you can just work your way down and get lighter pressure as you go. So it's important that when you're doing it like this, your pencil is on its side just about. If you're straight on, you're going to be going like that, and you're going to see strokes. You don't want that. So my pencil is on its side, and I'm just slowly using pressure and then lifting up pressure. This is also a good pressure, like to double check your pressure and to really just help you to find, you know, the sweet spot of how you are blending or how you're layering, so that you know how light you want your pencil. Okay, so you do that, and then I'm now with my light umber, and I'm going to start in the darkest area, and I'm adding a lot of pressure because I want it to blend, but it's still on its side. So, and I'm still doing the same thing. I'm going to let up the further down I go. Now, this is just like a nice practice. I wouldn't suggest this on a piece, but I mean, of course, if that's how you do it, that's how you do it. So I just very lightly. And there's another part too. Up here, we're starting to get a little bit of what's called burnishing. And burnishing is basically you use a lot of pressure and you're mushing all the colors together. So do you see how me adding this burnt sienna, it's starting to burnish. So just same thing, letting up pressure as you're going down through. And see how nice it's looking. Now, burnishing is okay. I don't mind burnishing at all. You can also get the same effect with the colorless blender if you want to burnish but don't have the shine. See how it's pushing all those colors together, and it's making it blend out. Now I notice with the colorless blender, it sometimes will flake off and you almost get almost like a white sheen over top of it. It's not the greatest tool, but it is useful. So there, we've done that now too. And let's start working on more up close fur. Maybe we'll do some curly fur.